So hello, my name is Rob and this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and this video is all about Terminators. In my eyes, probably the one of the most endearing units in the Space Marine range, but I'm not talking about these ones, I'm talking about these ones. These are the brand new sculpts that come with Leviathan, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I'm turning mine into Deathwing. Now this is aimed at the average hobbyist, so do you know what, if you're not too confident in kit bashing, you could probably learn a lot from this video. I'm going to do Deathwing, but you could take these methods and turn them into any faction you want to do. As always, I'll leave any information in the description box below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let's get the bits out and let's get started. Now, I've been wanting to do this video for ages, and the first thing I always like to do is take a good look at the sprues. So far, I haven't touched these, bar the little tiny bleepy thing, I don't know what it's called, the beacon. But looking at the sprue, I think the easiest way to do this is assemble the legs and the bodies. These are all monopose, which do pose their own problems, and it's something that I'm going to highlight in this video because not everything did go to plan, and I thought that was worth pointing out to people. So I've made all of the miniatures. Here you can see there's the sergeant. I've got some of the normal guys. None of the arms are attached at the moment, it's only the bodies that have been glued together. So you can see that all the gun barrels have also been drilled out, just because chances are I probably will forget to do them later. But this is really the most important part, because this is where I pick up each one of the models and I look at them. Now, the problem I had with this video is, one, I didn't have any Crux Terminators spare. And the way I would normally work is like I would do here. I'd go through my bits box, I would pick up bits for each individual model, and then I would go to town on that model. But because I tried the arms and some of them seemed to scale quite well, some of them didn't. The problem is, because this is a new kit and they're bigger, they don't cross over just so well some of the older arms. So I kind of decided against using arm swaps unless I could do a matching pair, so one arm didn't look bigger than the other. But that's where I kind of was with these. It was quite frustrating actually, as I did want to do a little bit more with these and felt that I probably could have as well. But it just really turned into a video of looking at each model and finding out what I could actually do with them. I.e. things like the Power Fist, how could I make that Deathwing without actually chopping it up and changing it? So I had to really rack my brains for this one, and it was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it just goes to show you that not everything goes to plan all the time. Now, it was when I was looking at my sprues that I noticed parts. I always say that I'm going to glue on and I never do. And it's just here, these little dangly things that you normally find off of Space Marine belts. I always tell myself I'm going to sticker them later on. I never do, but I thought these were a great way of dressing up what we've got. And really, if you take anything away from this video, it's sometimes you don't need to completely replace things or chop it up, is you can alter what you've got. And I think this is where people that maybe aren't so, I guess, brave at kit bashing is going to learn a lot. So I had a rummage through and I came up with these bits. I got some little tilt plates. I did pick out some shoulder pads and things like that, some stuff to go on the top. A lot of the time, I always say this, painting is 50% of a kit bash. So don't worry too much if you feel that you're not putting enough stuff on there, because the painting's going to do 50% of the work. But I just kind of worked out what I had, what I could use, what I wanted to use, and just kind of roughly how I wanted my guys to look. This is good because I also kind of work out how I'm going to use it. And I decided to start with the sergeant. We've kind of got this cool pose on this rock. Once again, nothing's glued on. I did poke his head in there just to see where his head was kind of looking, as that will kind of help me dress the model up. So I found a Dark Angel's blade, which I'm going to swap over, these cool wings, which I thought I would do a bit of a homage to this guy from Dark Vengeance here. And then I've kind of got some odd little bits that I will attach to the miniature just to dress it up. I don't need to do anything too much, because once again, the painting's going to mask all of it. So the first thing I decided to do was remove this little lens here in the corner. This is really easy to do, just get your hobby knife, and all I did was kind of jam it in there, and I just wiggled it just till it cut through the plastic. And then it was just a case of trimming it just so it was nice and smooth. Take your time with this one and try not to cut too much off of the hood section. Then it was the wings. Now originally they've got these little lips on them, as these are normally for the Strike Master, and they would have probably fitted on the edge quite well, but to avoid him looking too much like a Strike Master, I decided to go the other way, as in, once again, homage to our little friend from Dark Vengeance. So what I've decided to do was, and I just picked a point on here, and it's the first row of feathers. I filed the whole thing completely flat, but only up to where the first row of feathers ended. So you can see here, it's all nice and flat, and if I space them out or put them too far forward, they'll end up touching. So what I had to do was actually push them slightly further apart. To stick these on, I am going to use Tamiya Extra Thin Cement. Now, normally I would like to pin parts like this, but these are a bit too small even for my liking. So it is just going to be a case of a good bit of super glue thin, holding them in place where I want them, just till it bites onto the plastic, and then repeating the process on the other side. Things to watch for when you're doing stuff like this is that they are actually sitting level and they're not wonky, or they're not too far back. So they're both on, and this guy's got a cool little thing in the middle, like a little guiding unit or something. So the one that I had actually cut away from the hood, I kept. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to file the bottom of this flat, and I'm going to just glue it into the middle, just like this guy. So that's now glued in place. And as you can see, we're kind of spot on the top bit there, and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. The next thing to do is this little odd bit here, which I am just going to attach to his belt, just using a bit of super glue thin. Now the sword, this is probably the most difficult part of this kind of step, is I wanted to keep that cool Dark Angels looking blade. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand just down on a flat surface, and just a bit of pressure on my knife, I'm just going to literally chop it away. So you just put a finger over it. As I'll use the blade, as I always try and keep as any bits that I chop off, and I repeat the process on the Dark Angels blade. Once both of them are separate, using my hobby knife, I make a small little point, not only on the hand section, but also on the blade hilt. And if you haven't seen my latest video, which I'll link in the description below, lots of pinning, I show you how to do it. It's really, really easy to do. It doesn't take much. Then I just get a pin drill, take my time and drill out the hole. Once again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about pinning because I do cover it extensively in the video in the description. Then it's literally just a case of getting a paper clip. Once again, this matches the size of my drill bit. I literally poke it down the end of the nozzle and push it in to the hand section. Leave it for a couple of minutes to dry. I nip the pin off to the appropriate length. I put some super glue thin just where the hand will meet the hilt, just to give an extra bit of bond. A little bit of super glue on the end here as well. And then I literally just push the hilt onto the pin. Making sure it's nice and straight. Once again, when you're doing things like this, do just check the orientation and the way it's facing. And that's it, really easy to do. Lastly, I had this cool tilt plate, which I wasn't going to add at first, but I thought I will because I can keep his arms separate because they're only on pins. And for this, I'm just going to mount it on the corner of his shoulder pad. For this, all I'm going to do is, you can see it sticks out slightly, just with a file. I'm just going to file the peg down nice and slowly until it fits to where I want. And there you can see that's the sword arm with the tilt plate done. Once he goes on and the other arm is attached, we've got a pretty unique looking sergeant, and it hasn't taken much effort at all. And there's our guy, and there's our inspiration. So far, I think I'm off to a good start, and I think we're going to do the big assault weapon guy next, and you'll see these guys more at the end. So we've got this guy. He looks cool, don't get me wrong, he looks really cool. Maybe if I wasn't or didn't have a particular bit, which was the Cyclone missile launcher, the cool one with the Dark Angel symbol on top, I probably would have kept him as is and just mounted something on his back. But for this video, I am going to I'm going to change the arms on this one. Now, I do have some spare shoulder pads, and my buddy Penge, Casey, did kindly send me the only spare Crux Terminator shoulder pad I had. So thanks again, my man. You're an absolute lifesaver. So I was actually able to swap both arms in this instance. And this is really easy arm swaps. All you got to do is cut the pegs off and file them flat. That's all there is to it. Really, really easy. Of removing the little targeting device, I should probably really learn what these are called. Same as last time, just trim it off nice and gently and then smooth it over. And then it's just a case, once again, getting some clippers, holding them nice and flat against the miniature and clipping the pegs off. Really, really easy to do. So there's our guy, everything's been prepared. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to pose the arms. I did put the head in once again so I could see which way he was looking, so I could kind of work out where I wanted the gun to go. But once again, I'm going to give this guy a cool chain fist. This is from the Veterans kit, I believe, these bits. It should be just a simple arm swap. Really, really easy to do. There we go. Super easy, and has completely changed the pose of the miniature as well. And now it's time to mount the Cyclone missile launcher. Now this is actually a lot easier than what I first initially thought. There's got these little pegs in there. All I need to do is cut these in half. It should fit directly over the pegs where it normally would fit on a regular size Terminator. I say regular, the old size. This is now the regular. So once again, I'm just going to cut them in half. As you can see here, I've just nipped them down. And if you just push it on, you see it pop right on there. And if I wiggle it, it's nice and tight, which is what we want. That's a really, really good fit there. I was quite happy with how that did. It didn't take a lot of cutting or fussing around with this part, so it went really, really well. And for this, I'm just going to stick it with a little bit of super glue, because if I do want to take them off when I paint it, I can. And then it's just a case of just popping it in place. And it's job done for this guy. Once again, really super easy. However, everything's just about to become difficult, difficult, lemon, difficult, because there was these three guys. I didn't have any spare Crux Terminator shoulder pads. I didn't want to start cutting stuff away. I really wanted this to be achievable for people. So I think the way to go with these is err on the side of simplicity. Everyone's going to get something mounted on their back, whether it be a banner or a little bit of iconography. Once again, this is just pinned. I've done this many, many times. Once again, check out the video in the description. Everything just gets mounted via a pin, just to give a bit of uniqueness to each individual model. As you can see already, it's kind of jazzed him up enough. We put a nice Deathwing kind of logo on there, or some company markings, and all of a sudden we've got ourselves a lot more of a thematic miniature. Once again, do just make sure the orientation of the banner is in place. So next up, any little bits that I could, like here I've put a little dangly incense thing on his belt. I'll put these on just where I can, but now it's time to work on the power fists. Now, getting back to these weird little things that I never stick on my miniature, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't either. The plan is here is to kind of make these a little bit almost like relic power fists, a bit befitting. You can see this cool one here, it's got a load of bones in it. All I'm going to do is nip off the little contact point which would normally attach to the belt, file a little flat section on the power fist, file the actual thing down, I don't know what they're called, bone displays, and then actually just mount it directly onto the power fist. That way I'm not changing the arms or anything like that. All I'm doing is I'm just altering how it looks. Sometimes you've just got to work with what you've got, and because once again I had no Crux Terminator shoulder pads, this is just what had to be done. So I've sanded them down using my trusty file here, and all I'm going to do is, while holding them with a little bit of tweezers, as these are quite fiddly, I've run a file just across the front of the Power Fist, and all I'm going to do is mount it just between the middle two fingers and the circular elbow joint. This is basically to kind of get it lined up with how it is. The problem with Power Fists is because of the posing of them, they're at slightly different angles. So you might just need to adjust it by eye, but if he's 3 feet away on a table, it's not really going to matter too much. But I did just want to take my time, make sure they were as straight as possible. I added some purity seals around them. That's what I ended up with. I was pretty happy with how these turned out, and I did give myself a little bit of a pat on the back for being quite ingenious here. This was the most challenging part of it. As you can see here they are all completed. I added some different types. That's really it. And now let's take a look at the squad and how they turned out. And there they are. Once again, not everything always goes to plan. And sometimes even people like myself, people might think I don't, but I do. I make mistakes, and maybe I find things a little bit more difficult than what they should be. This was a lot of fun, and I've really wanted to do this for a long time. I always like to err on the side of caution when adding bits to miniatures, because I can always add, but it's more difficult to take away. So if I feel like I need to add more bits after I painted them, I will, to make them even more Deathwing-y. But that's it for me in this one. Once again, thanks for watching. I can appreciate there was a lot to talk about here, but these were a lot of fun, and it did take me a long time to do. So once again, thanks again. I'll see you all next time. God bless and take care.